Welcome, everyone, back to... Ooh, I'm missing a button. I'm sure John appreciates that. Welcome back, everyone, to Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. I really appreciate you all being here for this one. This is one I've been wanting to have for quite some time. As many of you know, The Other Guys is one of my favorite episodes from the series, and I have them. John Billingsley, Patrick McKenna, thank you so much for being with me for this episode. Patrick, how are you?
I'm excellent. I'm usually not this red. It's just lighting. Don't. It's the Canadian in me. That's what is happening, I think.
Let me just move this around here real quick. Yes. It's those. Sometimes you can't. We have to do what we can with what we got in the situation that we're in. In the room that we're in. So, and Mr. Billingsley, welcome back to Dial the Gate. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I feel pale in comparison. I feel like I should go out and get a little sun and come back.
Right? I'm missing something here.
I don't know. Patrick, the heat lamp is always going to Patrick's house. That's one of the things I'd like to talk about.
Guys,
so let it go.
He had a tanning bed in his hotel room when we shot the episode. Most people aren't aware that Patrick asked for a lot of things in his contract. I didn't get any of my requests, but Patrick... He had
Actually, you did, John. I had your bed removed from your hotel room. That was me. So I do all sorts of things.
Shit. I was sleeping on leaves for the most part for the week. Yes, it's true. Leaves, dirt, and yeah. But it's worth it. To work with Patrick, it was worth it.
It was absolutely. It was such a blast. Such a blast. So easy to do.
Have you guys been in the same space together since that episode?
No.
Okay.
Depends upon how you define things. I mean,
physical space,
planet Earth, together,
right?
As you know, I've been to Canada. That's narrowing down to.
That's close.
I've probably been relatively speaking, miles away from your house, Patrick. I just was too shy to call.
Oh, that's too bad. I wouldn't have answered, but.
Well, you never gave me your contact information either.
That's really the big thing there.
Yeah.
It's more of a legal thing than anything else.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Patrick, you've done 2 episodes of Stargate. John, you've done 1. Both of you
have to rub that in my nose. I know. They didn't bring Coombs back. They brought Felger back, or Felcher, or whatever his name was.
Okay. So, let me restart, guys. You've both done a small amount of Stargate content.
I did 2. John did 1.
Oh, okay. Very good.
It was a small amount of content, and yet here we are on your show again for like the 18th time.
Yes, so absolutely. I'm really pathetic.
The fans' memory. I don't know.
I'm curious as to how often this episode comes up in fan communication compared to your other body of work. Is it, this is the second time I've talked about this in 20 years, and both times were with you, or is it every once in a while someone brings this up? Something happened in that episode that really resonated with people. Patrick?
Yeah, because Stargate has got a completely different fandom up here. So when they recognize a Canadian in it, they kind of get excited by that too. And it was such a different episode. And sometimes people just organically click the way John and I kind of interacted. It was a real different energy within the show. So that was, I think, it stood out that way for people. And people still do, because those who love Stargate, they know it pretty darn well, and so they'll pick me out in the crowd and go, I know you did some other stuff, but Stargate, so which I take it as a great compliment. It's terrific.
John, you have done.
Yes.
This is how set I am today. We started 10 minutes late, and I can't even.
I have done a
number of Stargate conventions, Star Trek conventions. How often has Stargate, this role, come up at the Star Trek conventions? I
flog my Stargate. I flog my Stargate pictures, so it's gonna come up. I'm a whore, like so many of us are. It comes up.
There were so many great Star Trek references in the episode.
Yes, and it was good. Thank you very much, David, for sending the link. Now on my screen, I see 2 of me. It was confusing there for me.
You can just make my screen your whole screen if you want. It won't affect us.
No, I would like to see everybody.
Understood.
Equal opportunity that way. Yes, I had forgotten that I there I am again twice. I had forgotten that I was my character was such a huge Star Trek fan. David was kind enough to send the link, so I got to watch the episode for the first time in 20, 30 years, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I also forgot I vomited in the episode. I had not remembered that.
That's right. No, there's a couple of great lines that you deliver. One of them, probably my favorite one, is the old thing. How can you, claim to be? I forget what he was specifically referring to.
How can you claim to be a scientist and not worship at the altar of Roddenberry?
That's exactly right. Did you feel at the time being on Enterprise that may be a little too on the nose for you, or was it like, oh, this is perfect?
You don't always know the reason why you're cast in something. My suspicion is they thought it would be kind of clever to have a Star Trek actor play the part of a Star Trek enthusiast, but I don't know if that's the case. I can't really honestly recall whether I got offered this part or I auditioned for it. It was long ago and far away.
Well, I remember when I got it that they kept saying, John is in Star Trek. John is in Star Trek. They were thrilled that Star Trek was crossing over from where I was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are definitely a few Star Trek actors who have. Two of your contemporaries, Gillian Blalock and Connor Trinier, were in the franchise later on. So it was a big deal to have, because Brad Wright is a huge Star Trek fan. So it was a big deal to kind of have that. I don't want to say blessing, but like crossover for the fandoms. Yeah, very much so, because we're getting. We're able to, there's inside jokes between us now where it's all like, you're in that one, but you're also in that one. And oh, he played a really different character over there. And it was nice to actually see your face, John.
Well, thank you. A face that only a mother could love. When I watched the episode, I thought, good heavens to Betsy. It's a wonder I've ever worked at all in this business. My God, have mercy.
Jeez.
You'll notice that Patrick's the one who got to neck with the lady at the end of the episode. I got a bus on the cheek, and
it's from his perspective, So that's how it goes. Patrick, there are a number of fans, Patrick, who look at that episode and say the whole thing is in his imagination. Both of these episodes, they're his daydreams, and I'm like, I would not daydream about putting my pants on backwards. Thank you very much. That's not possible. Which happens in the next episode.
That was a good dream for Jay. He got pants on. That was the main thing.
Do you think it's possible that Coombs does not exist at all? Is he fictitious as well?
Like a Cylon in your head?
Didn't they say in the second episode that it proved that the first episode was real?
Yes, because there are episodes later on that reference both of these events. I can tell you that the bad guy who was played by the second bad guy, Michael Adamthwaite, who played Harak in this episode, very much comes back later on in the season. And in the next episode that you were in, Patrick, and you, John, were not in, there are references later on to deactivating the entire Stargate network, which Patrick's character Jay did. He turned the whole Wi-Fi system offline for the first time in millions of years, and it was hilarious.
It was a good one. It was a fun one.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't really.
Very bad.
It's very bad.
Okay.
No one could use their Stargate but us, because we manually dialed.
Not being a Stargate, I won't say a fan. I just didn't watch the show. Probably Patrick has similar experience. You don't always watch everything you're on. So I was completely lost. I had no idea. This gate and the portal and the Harrock and the Zubra and the Galala. And I was like, what the fuck? All I had to do is like, I'm scared shitless. That's all I needed to know. And this guy's an asshole. That's it. That's all I needed. The rest of it.
It's funny.
Begin.
Yeah, you're always thrown in if you're an actor into series that you're not familiar with. So frequently it's like, well, I have no idea what's going on here. But
yeah, there were script consultants following us around pretty close on how to say things and how to, react to certain things. And this is a recurring, and this is serious. And because John's absolutely right, you're just thrown into the middle of it, and that skipping rope's already turning, and we just got to jump in there somewhere. The crew knows what's going on. Everyone in the cast does. The catering people know, except John and I were the only two who didn't know.
Yeah. I didn't remember people following around trying to tell us shit though.
I had to say Gould so many times.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes, there were certain pronunciation issues.
Yeah, I tried to cover my mouth a lot when I would say things or look away. So maybe ADR I could sneak in and get it in there.
Well, at least Patrick, in at least in Stargate, like if you leave out an apostrophe, the script coordinator doesn't come over and bash you over the head with the book.
No.
In Star Trek, if you change a word, they come after you, don't they, John?
Oh yeah, tell me about it. As scripted, everything as scripted, no improv.
What?
Although every now and again you can kind of slip something in. I famously, although nobody ever catches this, there was an episode in which the character played by the actor Anthony Montgomery, whose name was Mayweather, is in trouble, and I'm in hibernation, and they wake me up in the middle of a deep sleep, and they say, "You've got to come immediately. You have to come immediately. Mayweather's in trouble." Mayweather, where's Mayweather? And I look under the covers as if he's filleting me, and I thought they're never going to let that fly, and it did. Made it into the episode. And I thought, I'll be damned. Every now and again, you can get something in, a joke, but it can't be with you can't change the words.
No, no.
I
always find it's always good when when the scene's over, if you can tag it, and if the crew laughs, they might keep it in because it doesn't change the scene, but it
that's right.
They can add it out if they want, but you've added a little pepper in there.
Until the directors catch wise, and then suddenly they're not giving you any wiggle room at all. Cut.
Not exactly.
Patrick, John is describing a scene where he's woken up and he's speaking in Denobulan for a minute, but in the deleted scenes,
Denobulan. My God, you butchered my species.
Denobulan, triaxa. Yes, and in the deleted take, it's with the reel at the end of the year. It's hilarious because they I don't know how many times they went through it, but Jolene couldn't keep a straight face, and Phlox is coming out of being woken up and he goes, "I don't care what it tastes like." And Jolene busted up. Oh, what a role. Guys, I want you, and this is going somewhere. Patrick, when did you first recognize that you were, or that you remember that you recognized that you were making people laugh and could be like, I want to do that again? Where did the spark of comedy, and when did it really hit you? Or was it just something like, I've always intuited this behavior? I'm curious.
Well, I have ADHD, so I'm kind of in tune with being, hey, look at me. And then I realized I better have something to follow it up with if they're going to look, so I started being funny. And I remember I saw a Dick Van Dyke episode one time, and I did the whole thing at dinner to show my family what I'd saw, and everyone was laughing. And they don't, in our family, you don't talk or do anything at table. So that was one of those moments going, if I can make them laugh, I think I got a good chance. And I don't know what John was like as a student, but I know if I can make teachers laugh, I wouldn't get in trouble and things like that. So you kind of hone your sense of humor. And then I got in a high school play, and I had a very small part, but it was like a funny line, and everybody laughed in the theater. It's like, okay, that, as you said, that moment of, oh, I want to do this some more. I really like this. And then a teacher, oddly enough, took me to see Second City. And I saw Martin Short and Catherine O'Hara and John Candy, all of them in the live cast. And I went, oh, no, that's what I want to do, that. And then luckily a few years later I was able to, but I don't know if John's the same way, where sometimes something just sparks you going, oh, it can be like that too. I wasn't big into theater per se. I just wanted to show off.
John?
Somewhat different in that I never really, definitely in school, one, you're trying to make the class laugh. And two, it's your defense against the bullies. If somebody's going to stuff you in the locker, you're going to get 3 fucking quips off, because they eventually say, I don't want to be on the receiving end of a sharp tongue, and they leave you the fuck alone.
You will all work for me one day.
Yes, my comedy tends to be probably overly aggressive, consequently, sometimes. It's also, of course, a matter of taste. I think my wife maybe would have said I was funny 30 years ago. I'm not so sure she would say so now. I don't know that I started thinking in any way, shape, manner, or form that I was particularly gifted as a comedic actor. I was a theater actor, and you have comic roles and you have dramatic roles, and sometimes you're looking to find the comedy in the drama, and you're always looking to find the drama in the comedy. It's a human being who's in a set of circumstances that are demanding, and depending upon whether or not it is written for comic effect or dramatic effect, the script is going to tell you what channel you're working in. So I never tended to think that I was particularly a comedian so much as I was just somebody who was looking to find a way to play the action fully and to be as emotionally invested as I could, and then it takes care of itself.
See, that's the difference there. John's a professional, and he really and he works at this. I think that's why he has a career.
I pshaw, and I would disagree with that. I'm sitting around reading books all day. Ageism. I do think that you know, as you get older, you also reach a point where you simply don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you. And that is a great liberator if you have a sense of humor. Sometimes I think when you're young, that instinct to measure twice, 3 times, 5 times, 7 times before you make a joke is what actually sort of stifles your capacity to develop your sense of humor. Although I don't know that I ever measured even once. But certainly as I've gotten older, I've loved the fact that I truly just don't really care about other people's opinions. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but you know.
Yeah, you're not going to go out of your way, you know. But you're still going to be you.
I don't want to defer overly to people's too delicate sensibilities.
I'm curious, and we're going to start with Patrick first. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Both of you, do your spouses think you're as funny as your audiences do?
I'm very lucky. Yes, my wife does. Yes, she's also very funny. So we make a point to make sure we make each other laugh as much as we can. That's something we kind of built into the whole arrangement. Is if we're not having fun, this is going to be over. So we go out of our way to always have fun with each other. We're what, 44 years married now, and I think we just still treat it like we're dating. If you're dating, you're always on your best behavior, best jokes. Everything is on your top of your intelligence, not the lowest. So yeah, we still laugh a lot.
John?
She used to think I was very funny. You know, I think about the 18th time she heard the same joke. She probably went, new material, pal, new material. No, she says to me, I mean, I adore my wife. I make a lot of jokes about my wife, and she makes a lot of jokes about me. And I think it's important in a relationship to be able to play with each other and to not take each other too seriously. There's always a place in a relationship when you recognize that it's time now for a conversation where you're going to put the jokes to the side because you've got something serious to talk about. I think that's really important to recognize that having a sense of humor and a sense of playfulness is a constant, but nobody wants to be married to the class clown who's on 24/7.
Yeah, because what's underneath, you know? I mean, there's got to be something there that's generating that. For Robin Williams, for instance, there was a lot of pain under there, you know? So it's like, if you're going to be married to someone, you have to be married to the whole person, or not necessarily married, but have a partner for life or whatever it may be, you know? Because a lot of people use it as a defense mechanism. And for a lot of people, a lot of other people, it's not that way at all. It's just, this is just my nature.
North American comedy is kind of sarcastic, you know, so it can be, you know, it can tickle somebody the wrong way sometimes. Sarcasm doesn't always go over the way you want it to.
As a general rule of thumb, it always struck me as if you make 3 jokes about yourself first, then you can get 2 good ones in on the other guy.
Oh yeah, that's a great rule. Start with yourself. Yeah,
that's a good one too.
I've always sort of operated on
like things like, why did I marry you? You know, things like that. Take it on.
Self-effacement goes a long way.
Exactly. Start with that.
Plus, I am my own best subject when it comes to jokes. I know all my weak spots. So yeah, I'm a constant source of self-amusement.
You have to be able to make fun at yourself if you're going to make fun of anything else and stand to look credible. You have to. I think that's the nice, especially in British humor, the note that you have to be willing to be, yep, I'm not all that. I can be a piece of shit sometimes. And, oh, by the way, so can you.
Yes, a prat, I think, is a good word. I've always liked the English word prat.
Yeah.
Have to recognize that you are a bit of a prat.
A bit of a prat, yeah.
And
Don Rickles,
yeah.
So
who?
Don Rickles got a nice career out of it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Where is the best experience? How do I want to phrase this? How much of your, can I get a percentage? How much, John, how much of your career has been in the theater? Would you 30, 40, 50%?
I don't do theater anymore.
You don't do it anymore.
I started in the theater. I pursued theater as a kid. I pursued theater up until I moved to Hollywood when I was 37. So that would have been, I don't know how you count your kid years, but 18, 19 years. I have pretty much been exclusively a film and TV actor since. I did keep my hand in the theater for a decade, maybe 15 years. I tried to do a play every year. But honestly, as much as anything, I just fell out of the schedule. I mean, you have to be at your peak at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
and then you're wired at the end of a show, and you're up till 2 in the morning. And I'm now at an age where it's like 9:30, hot milk, good book. So that life is, and I went to, even now going to the theater is like, oh my God, how long is the show going to go on?
So true.
Patrick?
I probably about a third, because I
Okay.
started at Second City, that type of theater, cabaret theater, for about 10 years. And then television seemed to introduce itself in film, and I was able to kind of segue off there. I've done a couple plays since, but I'm also, I have trouble remembering lines now, so
Yeah.
I don't want to subject the play to my weaknesses. I always find I did a play a couple years ago, and it was very difficult for me. I was surprised that never really happened, but I realize now that it's a huge undertaking. As John says, it's 8 shows a week doing that, and that's two in the after, sometimes 2 shows in the afternoon, and you got to put the wet clothes back on to do the nighttime show.
Oh,
you
the
know?
worst, the
The
worst.
worst, right? And you're just so exhausted, and the rehearsal time, and it really theater demands that you're there. And if you have a family and so on, that can be very difficult to share.
For sure.
Yeah.
Patrick, Red Green was filmed in front of a studio audience, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I still want to speak before that. So, how much do you feel, and John, I'll get to you in a moment, about how your senses of timing and pacing were attuned in the theater, and how much of that carried into your work later? Because
Oh,
humor is all about timing.
Yeah.
It's funny for an eighth of a second or a fourth of a second, and then that's it in many cases, depending on what it is.
Well, the advantage of Second City really was that you're up and live in front of the audience every night. So you develop your voice to find where that laugh is and your own timing within the improv and so on. And I suddenly realized I'm kind of an everyman type humor, so I fell into that a lot. And I kind of had a bit of a goofy look more so when I was younger too, so I could play into those roles pretty easy, the Harold character and things like that. I played a lot of characters like I do Jay, where he's sort of the stumbling guy. He's not in control. I'd play those characters a lot, the everyman troubles guy. But that's where I really found my voice. And yes, I was definitely able to take that into scripts to going, what's the best way I can use my instrument is this timing. And that's why I worked so easily with John, because it was totally like a stand-up comedy team, the rapport between us. And I understood that rhythm right away. And John obviously does too. So it was very easy not to step on each other and let the other person have that moment. And that's your joke. This is my joke. I'm the setup here. It was so natural. I think that's one of the reasons why the episode worked so well is it wasn't choreographed. It was just
yeah.
filmed.
And John, how much of your stage background in your earlier years built into your voice as a screen performer?
Oh, it's critical. I mean,
Yeah.
I taught for a number of years, and
Okay.
even now I'll mentor younger actors, and unless they're, uh, just so gorgeous that the screen demands them. Generally speaking, I would say you've got to get your seasoning on the stage because the demand of the work is so great. One, it separates the men from the boys. If you feel like, I'm pursuing a stage career, this is not for me, good. Leave. Go do something else with your life. You'll be happier in the long run. If you stick with it, it will give you craft that will allow you to transition to film and TV from a place of deep um, capacity. I think anything you learn on stage about timing, about listening, about finding out how to not step on the beat, about mostly for me, working with a more demanding text than you frequently get in film and television, so that you can go deeper in your investigatory work about what it is that animates the performance. The trap of film and television is, especially if you're a character actor, you're going to play a lot of supporting and maybe small supporting roles. If you're on stage, you've got a lot more latitude to play the bigger parts. You can actually create your own work. And I think that gives you the seasoning that you're going to need if you're going to have a long career.
Wow.
Regardless of whether you are a comedically gifted actor. I personally have always felt that any good actor can do anything, no matter whether it is drama or comedy, because the work is the work is the work.
Right. I keep hearing the term character actor bandied about Hollywood. It's like, well, this is someone that is not necessarily a leading man look.
It
basically means ugly.
They don't want to put it out there and say the ugly ones, but it basically is like anybody who could stop a clock with their face is a character actor.
But I look at like Johnny Depp as a
Not
chameleon. He disappears. He recedes into the performance. The same with Helena Bonham Carter, and there's a connection there. But I mean, these people, they go away. And for me, sometimes it's like, who is that? Oh, and to me, that's a mark not only of amazing either makeup or prosthetics, but an amazing performer, because you can't find them anymore. They're gone.
When I think character actor, I think you got to be at least number 7 on the call sheet. If you're 6 or above, it's like, you're a star.
Yes,
Son of a bitch.
That's a good rule. I go with 5, but I get
5, 7, 9. I've been number 363. I mean, it's.
I always say to actors, though, try to be at least number 3 on the call sheet and lower, because there you got a little bit of freedom. If you're the star of the week, you got to be the same every week. You're the hero and that's your role, and you're the support, that's your role. But 3, 4, and 5, you can fool around a little bit. They write episodes for you. They do this when you're in a series.
Oh, here we get to see that.
There he is.
There he is. See, now this is comedy. We have 2 cats, a funny cat.
Oh, cat. There's the cat.
Funny cat.
Ooh.
I don't know. Are you guys are we on camera, or are we just hearing our voice?
No, we're definitely broadcasting this cat piddling.
Hey,
so
we're definitely broadcasting.
Oh, left you a gift.
Well, he is, as I said, he's the funny cat. The girl cat would be like, no, I'm not gonna. And the boy cat is like, I'm gonna wait till the right moment, and then I'm gonna come in and take a big dump in the middle of the show.
No, big cat. No, don't come back and sue us in 15 years, cat. I'm just saying.
That's why I have the litter box in this room.
Oh, he's having a good time there.
Oh yeah.
Look at that go. Oh yeah.
This is the door to the closet, which he thinks he wants to get into, but you don't really want to go in there. All right, go ahead. There you go. Odoriferous one.
Having a critic in your room all the time.
Oh, gosh. Hey, Dial the Gate. Did you guys have any? Did you meet the morning of the first taping, or did you meet at the hotel the night before? When did you get a chance to say, okay, here's the raw material. What's our game plan? What kind of person are you? Did you talk before? Because you're going to be playing tennis all week, so to speak.
As I recall, I met Patrick in the bar. I think his head was down, and he had some martini glasses laid
Was
out.
that you?
That was, yeah. So I fireman carried him up to his room because nobody else wanted to get near him, and
Threw me into the tanning bed and left me there.
Yeah, left him in the tanning bed, and then I went back to my room, and it's like, why are there just birch leaves here? I don't understand this.
I think we met on the set. I don't remember if we met the night before at all. I remember afterwards hanging out with you, but I don't remember the night before.
No, I don't either.
This set, I was just kind of ready to do what I had to do. I was arrogant enough to think the other player will be ready as well. And
yeah, you do think that. I mean, in a way, I don't know that it ever enters your mind. I mean, all you can control is what your prep.
Yeah.
And
that was a really tight script. I mean, the rhythm was kind of suggested in it. Yeah. So you got to hope that the other person gets the rhythm too.
Yeah.
And with television, boy, there's no rehearsal. There's kind of like, hello, let's walk and block it, and let's start shooting. So I think the early takes, John and I were lucky enough that they were in offices and things like that, where we got to kind of at least hear each other's voice.
My memory is that the first day was it was not shot completely in sequence, but I think the first day was the
hill.
The hill.
The Hill, you're right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also, I always feel like we should mention him, the gentleman who was the third Stooge.
Ian Boothby.
Yeah, he did not get to travel with us.
They took SG-1. They took SG-1.
And yet I suspect he got paid as much as we did. So
That's right. We were playing so much because we had to run a lot on that hill and
stuff. A lot of running.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of stuff. So I think we had so much fun, just the three of us, that it just kind of carried over into the scenes, because that was a fun sequence to do too.
The sand dunes. Yeah.
Yeah.
May they rest in peace.
Although I think I think we had the most fun when my favorite scene, even when I go back and watch it, is when we're beamed into the ship and you start shooting. Which
they didn't know we were here before. They do now.
That did make me laugh quite a bit. I watched it the other day, and one's frequently very dubious about going back and watching things if you're going to do a podcast. It's like, oh Jesus.
That was one of those moments where you can improvise a little bit because they just say action, and so we come, enter laughing sort of thing. Yeah. Same with when I think you and I ran into one of the
Jaffa. He is sick.
He is sick. Doing that voice was like I was just in that moment, and I thought, oh, well, they're not going to take that. And it was the same thing of do that again. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Because we did that run. We did that probably around 7 or 8 times as well too. So there's various takes on what we did.
Are you? Oh, so you're encouraged in this kind of setting to tweak a little bit and massage the funny bits and to try something new.
They liked us, I think.
Very
they liked our energy together, and I think Richard Dean Anderson is clearly kind of like cracking jokes all the way through it. I mean, to me, it's sort of he sets a tone that permission is given.
Yeah. Oh, look!
I'm sure that not permission. Permission cannot be given to everybody willy-nilly. I mean, I think we both experience this. There are people who are very good improvisers, and there are people whose improvisation takes you away from the channel of the story, and it becomes self-indulgent. And I think that's where Patrick and I both probably would know that it is always in the service of the story. It can be funny, and it can be it can be playful, but you can't be calling attention to yourself.
Right. No. Any more than the story requires. I mean, if you're the lead, I would think it'd be okay for you to call a little bit more attention to yourself. But my concern would be, I want to do something here, but I don't trust the person in front of me to remember their lines once I derail them, so that when they respond, then they can get back on the right track.
It's not like you get a lot of opportunities in television.
What I'm trying to get at is that you have to trust the person, that you're playing with, in order to not completely derail the situation. If you're going to meander a little bit, you have to trust that they're going to stay professional, that they know the material, so that if you even throw them a pebble, they'll still be able to execute the rest of the scene.
It's still nice. It's nice to do that. Like if you're doing the take over and over and over, then you both are so attuned to the words. It's nice. You can maybe change the rhythm, do this, do that. And that's how you find those really unique takes sometimes, is it just changed it up enough that you were both listening at that moment and reacted in a fresh way. So sometimes it can help. I'm sure John's had this too, where sometimes a director may come up and whisper in your ear, try this, and the other actor doesn't know. Because they want that reaction in real time. Maybe we're getting stale by doing it 6 times, things like that.
For sure.
I mean, you really don't, generally speaking, get to a place in a career where you're working reasonably steadily and in reasonably large roles with other actors unless you're very adept at working with whatever comes up, whatever the rhythm is, whatever you're being fed, however skilled your partner is, you can make it work. It's a joy when you feel like you're given permission to be playful, and when you're working with people who are playful by nature, when you get to feel like, oh, so much latitude here. It doesn't happen that often.
No, and it really works best when we have a handle on our character so well that it's the improvising kind of simple, because our character only responds in so many ways, so that makes it really generous as well.
Afraid, terrified, joyful.
Yeah.
I did a table read of a pilot that Ron Howard was trying to do, which I thought was pretty cute, about an IRS office, workplace comedy. And I felt badly for the writer because they had a lot of talented improvisers who were not reined in. And I don't know why they weren't reined in,
Ah,
but it was a 30-minute script. And it took 43 minutes to read because every one of the improvisers was improvising. And it was not honoring the script. It was not honoring the story. It was very self-indulgent, and you can feel the air come out of the room. And
Mhm.
suddenly what becomes brisk becomes elongated. And there was a self-congratulatory feeling in the room. I was like out of there. I'm gone. It's like I don't want to hang around here because that was a flop, guys. And you don't perceive it because you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, wasn't my shtick funny? That is the trap,
wow.
and it's why very, very rarely in television or in film will you be given the latitude, because if you're good and they trust you, yeah, but you can't trust everybody to know the difference.
Yeah.
That's
We were
true.
doing a Red Green show in the second season. They brought in a whole bunch of new characters that were all from Second City, and everybody was improvising at the end of the scene. It just never ended. And the second season is one now they refuse to air because it just, as John was saying, it got off book. It lost its way. People were auditioning with their shtick, instead of doing the show. It was a realization of, oh yeah, it's not everybody can do this.
They really won't air it?
No, no, they take the second season, it's gone. It's like the elevator. There's no 13. There's no second season of Red Green. It goes 1, 3, 4, and up to 15, but not 2.
Yeah, you
Wow.
got to you're there to serve the material, and if you're good, you can serve it in a lot of different interesting ways. But if you stop serving the material and you're serving your own need to be seen, you're in trouble, and the show's in trouble.
I had this
And
Go ahead, Patrick.
I was just gonna say, I remember for our episode, oftentimes because we didn't rehearse, you didn't know the energy of the scene until if the other character spoke first. So he might go, Jay, we got to do. Okay, John's going to be up here, then I got to be up here too, and vice versa. How we're going to, be able to do this, just recognizing immediately what they're offering up as soon as the word action comes. There's an offer from your teammate, and I think both of us were able to recognize that right away. We're going to start there. Let's go there. We'll start in the middle. There wasn't a lot of preamble to us. I think the audience felt this too, that these guys have known each other a long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a hard thing to communicate. And that was really I think a salute to both of us and the show.
I think it speaks to your timing as actors. It's like we can give the appearance that these people have been competing with one another for at least 10 years in this space, the scientific community, and they have a rhythm with one another, and they respect each other to a large degree as professionals, but also at the same time they've spent so much time together that they can almost read each other's minds, and B, I'm so sick of you, I don't want to look at you some days, And there's a humor there that is almost Abbott and Costello. It's like, oh, here he is. But I do enjoy the person that I sometimes am when I'm with him, even though I sometimes am led to hate him.
Well, there was such an interesting thing of Jay had the ideas and Coombs was like, no, but I'll go with you.
I know.
I
I was
love
watching that the other day. It's like it just happens so fast. That's the thing that I think is like, to me, it's like, but I didn't even get my objection out. Now I'm on the fucking starship.
That's right.
I think I think Coombs recognized that if he went his own way, unwillingly, Jay would have more than willingly gone his own way because he's there to save the team. That's what I love about this episode, is because it's an underdog story. You've got this guy who loves the people that he's trying to fight for as much as the audience loves them. That's, I think, that the thing about this episode that rings true the most. Yes, he is enamored with them, for sure, but he also he recognizes their purpose as a unit and what it is that they do for all of us. Savor the moment, gentlemen. Savor the moment.
Well, that was my favorite. One of my favorite lines too is when we first appeared, and I say, I got Coombs with me," and then he goes, "Oh, look, everyone, he brought Coombs."
I know, that made me laugh too.
That was one of those right away going, "Okay, this is going to be a funny episode.
We're on a mission, you nit. We were meant to be captured on purpose." Oh, God.
Coombs.
Any memories of Martin Wood directing this episode? Was this the first time you had both been directed by Martin Wood?
First and
time I met
last.
Martin Wood,
First
actually.
and last. I got a letter afterwards in no uncertain terms saying this will never happen again. I don't know, but I keep it in a portfolio of such letters that I've received in my career.
He was terrific. Because I didn't know him at all. I mean, I was living in Vancouver at the time, so everybody was working on Stargate, so I heard of Martin, but I never got to work with him. One of my good friends is Gary Jones, who was the operator at the front there, and so he was always talking about the show and so on. And same with Peter DeLuise was another person I wanted to meet because I'm a huge Dom DeLuise fan. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I got to meet his son. I got to meet this guy, and he was so serious. There's no way you're related to Dom. Come on.
I don't honestly. I have. I remember Patrick, and I vaguely remember everybody else. It's probably because I smoked. He's the only one I smoked dope with. So
there you go.
Yeah,
because oftentimes too, they were off in Video Village, right, and we were off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you don't really have that much interaction. I mean, you know, if a director feels like they need to shape a complicated performance, you may have a level of conversation that is more extensive. But you just felt right off the bat that Martin trusted us and felt like these guys know what they're doing. And it wasn't that he wasn't present, but I don't remember having long, searching, agonizing conversations the way you might with the director who's directing you in Titus Andronicus. It's like,
I mean, he was one of the biggest people laughing. So that was, again, that's a support to both John and I when we're working, going, if the director's laughing, we're doing okay. We're, not going to get in trouble at the end of this day.
Yeah.
But he knows his episode is lifting off the page too, and he sees people be able to do that with the script, and the writer's excited. And I think that's one of the reasons there was such a big smile all that week. I don't know how John felt, but I felt I'm being treated way too special here.
No, I know. They definitely really, again, coming from Star Trek, where it was like, they were so, and I had a great time on Star Trek. It was great fun. I loved everybody, but they were anal. It was like, you could not fuck up. Everything was so like, like, oh, try it. I don't know. Let's do it again. That was fun. It's like,
yeah.
And it was Vancouver, one of my favorite cities in the world. And the Sutton has one of the best bars in the world. I was very happy, man. And it turned out Patrick had dope. I mean,
that's the advantage of living here,
Yeah. Because you fly into Vancouver as an American actor, it's like, fuck.
You got to stand around Granville Street for hours.
I know.
I've got some fan questions here to throw at you guys. Some of these I'm going to skip, folks, just so you know, because I'm going to refer to the previous episodes where I had each of these gentlemen on individually, and a lot of this was covered. Christine Unpronounceable asks about The Man from Earth. For John, I cannot recommend that film enough. It is one of my favorites. It is a sci-fi film that is just 6-7 professors sitting in the room talking, and a great 90 minutes.
It cost $8 to film it.
Yeah.
We had one chicken that we managed to stretch out for 3 weeks at Crafty. It was quite extraordinary. We all took turns gnawing on the chicken bone.
Patrick, have you ever done prosthetics?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Kevin Weaver, Kevin, why are you asking this? But I'll ask it. Okay, we'll go there. Does wearing prosthetics, gentlemen, ever lead to developing funny tan lines?
Are you looking at Patrick right now? Are you seeing what's happened to him? I mean, he looks like Satan. That's all from wearing prosthetics.
The problem with prosthetics more than anything is they burn your skin with trying to get them off.
Oh,
latex can just be so unforgiving, that kind of stuff. So the only tan lines you get are the marks where it's torn off around here, or peeling up your nose, or eyebrows come off with it, or your sideburns tear off on the other sideburns, or because of the glue they put in there. So prosthetics I find are a real pain, but some shows they're required. I don't know if John, you ever do that where you sit in a chair for 5 hours and they make like a mask of your face and all that with
strips
up your nose.
Yeah. The character in Star Trek, I had 2.5 hours of prosthetics.
That's when you learn you're claustrophobic.
It wasn't. Sure. It didn't bother me. Actually, I found the only thing that bugged me was I had to wear the big fake eyeballs that cover your entire eye.
Big blue.
Yeah, because if you have any kind of stigmatism, when you're wearing a fake contact lens that's designed to make you look like an alien, you really can't see very well. And I couldn't read, and that's my favorite thing to do. So I was left with nothing to do but eat, which is why I eventually became 350 pounds. And
That's why they introduced the hibernation.
yeah, that's why Dr. Phlox was on a treadmill for the better part of season 3. Just running. Just keep running.
Patrick, have you ever seen John as Phlox?
No.
It's beautiful makeup. It's really quite elegant compared to a lot of the stuff that they came before. And Nana, visitor, always talked about, you got to be careful about those prosthetics because at the end of the day, because you guys are exhausted, she would rip off her nose. And after the first 1 or 2 seasons,
I was number 7. I was not exhausted.
After the first couple of seasons, she had a permanent scar right here that she has to this day. Yeah. You can't rip off your face, man. You have to properly take it off.
Mission Impossible, when Tom Cruise rips off the rubber head and suddenly he's Tom Cruise again, it was like, I wish it worked.
I know, right? Yeah. Because that's the longest part of the day when you're so tired, and then it take 2 hours to take the makeup off. Oh man, and you'll be back tomorrow morning for 3 hours to put it back on. Like,
but you get sofa money, which I always loved because you have to get the turnaround. So if it takes too long, you get the equivalent of what it would cost to buy a nice sofa, which is why we have a lot of sofas. The whole house is full of sofas and litter boxes. Every room has litter boxes and sofas.
Gabby Federer, was mispronouncing the name Felger in the script, or was that an improv by RDA? Do you recall that at all? I still can't figure out. I think it's Felger, or is it Felger?
Felger.
It is Felger.
Yeah,
gosh.
But I could just never remember it.
Went back and forth. It went constantly back and forth. And I took it as one of those things, like some people will do that with, other names where they're not, like my name, they'll go, Mr. McKenna, instead of McKenna, and be like, McKenna. It's like, you're emphasizing the different vowel, but okay, let's do it that. So I'd be like, you can't correct it, Felger, sir. It's Felger.
So I was never sure. Am I Coombs or Combs? That was Jeffrey Coombs. It took me a long time to not call him Combs. In fact, now I call him that to irritate him. But that's story.
Peace Rider, the other guys, is one of my favorites. You guys were amazingly funny. Did you ever get a moment to make Rick laugh? It's only been 23 years, guys. Come on. Really?
I didn't know an Avenger I got to because I worked with him more. I don't know if he found us funny because we didn't work with Richard that much.
Yeah.
It was in that one. It was sort of, he was reacting.
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't remember particularly.
Okay.
I remember getting a chance to spend a little time with Amanda and Chris and thought they were charming and lovely. And as I recall, Rick only worked for 3 hours on Thursday. That was they managed to compress all of his scenes into this tiny little box, and then he would fly his plane back to Washington or to the States. So
I think that's one of the reasons we were brought in, was the storyline wasn't necessarily about him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That he could have come on.
Yeah, he was beginning to roll back his number of days in season 6, and by season 7, he was working 3 days a week and had 1 week off per month. So they really they did gymnastics to make it work for him. But when you have a performer like Richard Dean Anderson, who's a part of your show, you're going to do what you can, especially a show that's been successful for the number of years that it has, and he's as awesome as he is, you're going to make it work. And I think that they largely did. There were some that it's like, okay, you can drive a truck through this plot hole that they made for him. But the others, it's like the other guy, I didn't even consider that this would have been a good chance for him to get some downtime as well. And then you insert him here and there, and we've got him, and now we're moving on. So very cool.
He's very generous though, because I think the first time he saw us was that scene going, we're here to save you. And I think his reaction in his eyes was the same thing, like, this guy's going to play it like that. It was the first time he heard you. And saw that.
I don't even remember that. I honestly don't remember that.
We're here to rescue you.
Yeah,
I did an episode of Nash Bridges once with Don Johnson, and I was supposed to just have a couple of days. And first day he didn't show up, and the second day he showed up so late we couldn't film, and then they couldn't reschedule it for another week. So it was like, hey Bonnie, come up. We just got a free week in San Fran. We're like,
wow.
God bless number one sometimes. It's like they're on their own schedule. It's like, by me.
And plus, Richard was doing MacGyver with the same crew for so many years beforehand. So when you're talking about the ease of the set, that was another reason. Those people have been together for like 20 some years,
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing. Just stand up out of their way if you don't, because
I did not think, which I thought was not unfortunately always true of Star Trek. I didn't think they took themselves too seriously.
Right.
And I'm not a Stargate.
You're right. You're tapping right into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Star Trek, sometimes I end up having conversations with people where it's like suddenly I'm in an earnest conversation. It's like I'm not prepared to be in an earnest conversation.
Yeah.
I've never had an earnest conversation about Stargate in my entire life or about this episode.
But they're two different things that way. I think part of it is that Gene had set up this whole, this is about ideas. And ideas, they're important ideas. And they are. But you also put your pants on just like everyone else does. And I will sit down with Brad or Rob and I will say, the ideas. And they're like, yeah, the ideas were there, but that's not why we were there. In Star Trek, that's why you're there. That's why they're there. And so you...
Every once in a while, for girls in miniskirts either, though, I will say.
Well, I mean, it was the 60s. Yeah. But Jack, Rick as Jack will almost literally just turn to the camera and wink every now and again. And there's something that resets you into that mindset. In episodes like this, it's like, yeah, we're going to go here into a few places that we normally don't, and we're going to have a good time. And at the end of the episode, we're going to reset back to a position, and we're going to carry on. And that was what Stargate did so well. It's like, we're going to go way off the beaten path over here. Far more overboard than a Star Trek might. But at the end of the day, we're always going to bring you home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Paul Brickler wants to know, Patrick, what was your favorite red-green bit that you remember being part of? My girlfriend is a huge fan of the show, which means that he's not.
We did one where we were trying hot sauce, and they just said to me, it just said in the script, Harold comes in and he tries the hot sauce and it's too much. So that was one of those things we're saying with John, like, they didn't tell me what to do and the audience came in. So I tore the place apart. I just went insane with how hot this stuff was. And I kept going so long, just waiting for them to kind of go cut, but no one ever did. I tried everything in that room to try and cool down this eating paper. I was putting sand dust in my face and then ran out. And I could just hear the audience going crazy, and I knew both the actors out there thinking, that son of a bitch, took 4 minutes to leave a scene.
What was the runtime of the show? 25 minutes?
22 minutes.
22 minutes. And the clock is ticking. What do you do? Because they have a certain amount of runway left once you're gone. Are they going to have to pull something later? What is the process for that in a live studio audience situation?
I knew they only had 2 lines. So it was like they can squeeze that in easily.
Okay.
And also there's an editor, so he can also. I made sure that if I was in one side of the room, he could cut away to them and things like that. I was never in their shot, making sure that I could do all this without ruining the take. And it seemed to work out really well because they got into the show and it was probably about 2.5 minutes long, me leaving, which was just so much fun. So that was, for me, the fun.
John, how much of that are you thinking ahead in terms of, okay, if I do this, I have to make sure that they have something to cut to later on? Or does that not factor in when you're in your groove? It's like, I'm dealing with the blue eyeballs. I don't have time for this.
And forgive me, I don't know red-green, so I have not done... I've done very, very few sitcoms, and the ones I've done, there's not been that permission given. I can't think of anything really comparable. I did a movie called Out of Time with Denzel Washington, and that was an instance in which I was given a certain amount of latitude, but it was still within a considerably tighter framework. So I don't know that I've ever had that opportunity. It sounds like great fun, and I had it on stage.
Well, that's the show being taped in front of a live audience. To me, was very much like a live performance.
Yeah. If my film and TV stuff has not been in any way similar to my stage experience. The stage experience, there were certainly things where you had more latitude to elbow it out, but not in film and TV for me.
Perfectly fair. Matt T wanted to know, and we're going to start with Patrick, which means, John, we're not going to start with you. See, I'm wearing these out. The Jaffa costumes.
I'm gonna go use the litter box.
It's right there. Put something over the camera, though, please. The Jaffa costumes, were they a pain in the ass?
Yes.
Yeah. Did pieces ever fall off? I've worn one. Pieces tend to fall off, especially when you start running.
Well, there is that, and they're old tires, so they're really heavy, And I remember it was hot, and they put us in these little rubber caps, as well.
That is horrible.
Horrible.
So much heat comes out of your head.
It was funny.
Funny, but I'm a sweater. Like I sweat like.
So
that was a hard one for me. Like wipe them down. Wipe them down. So that was, but yeah, they're awkward for sure. I mean, I kept feeling for the guys who were regulars every week as Jaffa. Like they were there all the time wearing this stuff. It was like those going, "Oh, you guys are working hard." Sorry.
And they had to be serious.
Yeah.
To me, those things were so ludicrous. It's just they're ludicrous to look at. It's like, really? Okay. It's like, how can you not get laughs wearing that fucking thing?
Exactly.
With the little silly hat, and the little thing. What I liked is that it was like we'd etched it on, so it was kind of off center. Like we had a child draw it. It's like, I'll draw yours, you draw mine.
Did you each draw your own?
No.
I remember thinking that it's like, I think it was getting put on. It's like, could you make it like a skew? Like, because we've been doing it on the fly. So.
Yeah, but they are uncomfortable.
Was it magic marker? What was it? I was looking at it, it's like, what did they find in the pyramid or wherever I mean, that's the canon question. Like, okay, what did we've never seen the Gould have anything like that. But in actuality, I can't really tell what it is. I think it's just magic marker.
In any television show ever made, there's a scene in which you've disarmed the villain and then you dress up in the villain's clothes and go out looking like the villain. And in real life, you would never be able to fit into his clothes. It's like the pants wouldn't fit. It's like this guy was too fucking skinny, or the shirt would be like, That's always what I'm waiting for. It's like, it's like that's like 5 sizes too big for me. We just knocked out these two like gargantuan guys, and it's like we'd be like,
had them tailored.
Yeah, it is tailored.
This is true. But I mean, for the top stuff, if he's extra tall and you're extra wide in even proportion to the other, when you fit it on, no, it still doesn't work. Okay, very good.
Well, so those are the kinds of things that amuse me. It's like, and there's a limit to what you can get away with. I would have loved it if it's like, what if we just don't fit into these ghoul uniforms? And it's like the sleeves are dragging and the pants are falling down, but
Erica Strom, Mama Knox, did you ever get pissed that you didn't get to kiss anyone?
I do have a good kissing story. I did a pilot for a show that didn't get picked up about 2 teenage detectives, and I was the villain. And there was a scene in which I got to make out with a gorgeous woman, which never happens for me. And I was bending her over a desk, and the desk had a broken leg, and there was a grip supporting the desk so it wouldn't crash to the ground. And for various reasons, not having anything to do with me, the take kept fucking up. And the poor woman was getting razor burns, and the grip was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, this business is great. And the grip finally said, I hate fucking actors. So, yes, I've gotten one moment of kissing glory in my life.
Oh, jeez. Lockwatcher question for Patrick. Red Green show, 15 seasons. Are you still in contact with anyone?
Oh, yeah. I'm in contact with every one of them. Absolutely. Wow. They're great friends. When you work 15 years with people, you're friends. We've seen kids grow and marriages happen and divorces, and some cast members have passed away. It's a family for sure. Yeah.
John,
15 years.
Yeah.
How many episodes did you do a season?
300.
A season?
No, 300 altogether. Seasons would vary. We do mostly about 15 a season. Sometimes 12, sometimes 19, but generally about 15.
So they were tighter. So you're not like, well, this was a C-level joke. Let's fit it in for episode 30. So
that's the advantage of the live audience. If the joke didn't work, we did 2 shows a night, and in between shows we'd work on that. We'd fix that joke and try and fix it for the second show. And we recorded on Wednesdays and Saturdays, 2 shows, but there were 4 takes of them. So by that second show, you could really kind of play around if you knew you had a first good show. If everyone's happy with the time, then you can play around a little bit in the second show with some stuff to make it a little fresher. So it was always, 15 guys just having fun.
I have a technical question. How often would they combine different scenes from the different hours? into the final edit, depending on the intensity of the laughter or the quality of the work? Or was it always you pick one or you pick the other?
That was it. One or the other. Yeah.
Wow. The thing,
And we never sweetened the laugh because you had the live audience. The show was that type of show where it was joke to joke to joke to joke.
yep,
And the audience was so dedicated that they were laughing even as we are just doing the setup.
yep.
You know, it was a wonderful experience to be in a carnival like that. You know, when you're the rodeo clown in a show that's just all about funny, it's like, oh,
That's right.
it's a selfish place for an actor to be, but it's glorious.
That's the thing that I dislike about modern television, particularly like The Big Bang Theory. Someone walks through the door and they look at someone else and there's a huge laugh track and it's like, okay, guys, tone it down. Like even Seinfeld, Larry David and Jerry were big on, if that laugh did not land, it stays in that way. They did not sweeten it up at all. John, who are you? Who do you find yourself most connected to from either the Enterprise cast or the Star Trek pantheon after all these years? Who have you remained in contact with the most?
Well, you know, the convention circuit is such that you kind of bump in with everybody, but I also am a member of an organization called the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. My mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, so I work very closely with Armin Shimmerman and Jonathan Frakes and Kitty Swink and Manny Cotto. His brother, Manny Cotto, was a producer on Enterprise. His brother, Manny, died. His brother, Juan Carlos Cotto. We're quite close. I love Jonathan. On my show, probably Connor is a good friend, and we see each other a fair amount. But I love. I mean, you know, the weird 15 years is still. I'm staggered at that level of intimacy. Star Trek as a franchise has been around for a long time, and you get to know a lot of folks. My particular iteration of Star Trek only went for 4 years, so I really wasn't as close to my cast. But having spent time in the Star Trek universe now for 25 years, there are a lot of people I have deep affection for. Nana is. We just had lunch last week. I just adore her.
Ah, there you go. Gabby Federer. Patrick, do you think Felger and Chloe are still hanging out, or do you think that he screwed that up? Do you think they're still working together professionally or hanging out together in each other's lives after all this time?
I can think that probably worked for about a year and a half, maybe, and then she met somebody quite serious and fell in love with him. And maybe Coombs.
Chloe Coombs.
Yeah,
Chloe Coombs. I love it.
I think she would eventually wake up to someone like Jay.
Gosh.
That was that episode where I had to laugh because I got to kiss her in that episode. And my wife is like, can you not just do a show where you just act? Can you just, for some reason I got this series of, I got to kiss the really pretty girl because I'm a goofy looking guy. So it's one of those things. It's kind of funny that the goofy guy gets to kiss the girl, you know? So that's written into scripts kind of often for me.
There's a guy I did a movie with recently who is a devout Christian, and he will not kiss on.
Will not kiss. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've read about
I have to work around it.
Could I take the kissing responsibility because I'm an atheist and you know I'll do anything. They didn't think that would work.
John, I didn't get to ask you about the Orville last time we talked with Robert Picardo. Brilliant.
A show that is a comedy, and I did not have a comic beat.
I know. Isn't that curious? But my favorite Robin Williams film, other than Mrs. Doubtfire, is 1 Hour Photo. So, you know, still waters can run deep. There may be nothing underneath them, too. I mean, you know, but that scene, the entire episode
where Nick can put his hand into a pot of hot water.
So the entire episode is more light and thoughtful, and then they get to this. And Patrick, it's wild to watch because you think that the show is one thing, and it's completely turned on its ear in this scene with John's delivery. Why don't you use your hand instead of a ladle to take the hot soup out? And Robert Picardo, he forces Picardo's character to pour boiling hot soup with his hand. My God, it's one of my favorite episodes of the show. So intense, and it's the cool thing about that episode was you're absolutely turning conventions upside down in terms of audience expectation. Cool show, man. Really, really neat.
Yes, it was interesting in that the gentleman whose name is escaping me. This is why I don't work, because I always forget the names of the directors and the leads and everybody. Who's the guy behind
Seth MacFarlane. You got it. It just took a second.
Seth MacFarlane, who apparently could do a killer Dr. Phlox impersonation and was there every day. I mean, he's a very hands-on producer, and I was like, "Come on, I want to hear the impersonation. Give it to me, give it to me." He would never do it. So
he did your show.
I know. It's like, come on, man. It's like you tease. He was a Phlox tease.
I'll give you one if you want.
Yeah,
Yaddle-yaddle-oy.
given the fact you can't pronounce my species name, I'm not sure I'm going to give much credit to your impersonation, but all right.
Yaddle-yaddle-oy. I just did it. So he's talking to his birds.
That was terrible.
Yeah, it is. But, Feasel would have liked it. I'm just saying. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you both. Getting into the minutia of what it is that goes behind the building blocks of a scene is cool. And talking about the experience that made you both you and then brought you into this episode and what came after has been really special to me. So thank you very much both for it. Patrick, anything before we wrap up?
No,
It'll be another 23 years before you see John again.
No, I hope not, because I'm a big fan of his, and I just enjoy being around him and listening to him, and he's just a wonderful guy. And if they bring us back in some form in the future, that'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be fun? I know. Yeah. I would love nothing more than to work with Patrick again. That would make me beyond happy.
Me too. Me too.
So I hope our paths cross in person someday, my friend, very soon.
Yeah.
Guys, you've been great. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show on this side. But be well, please.
Thank you. All the best.
Patrick McKenna and John Billingsley, Jay Felger, and and I just realized I pressed the wrong button, so I apologize, everyone. I've been doing this a lot. There are opportunities that I am afforded every now and then where I just have to, in this job, pinch myself, where it's like, my gosh, I'm sitting down with two of the finest comedians to ever share the screen together. And this was one of them. And I really hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did in leading it with you guys. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, please click the like button. It does make a difference with the show and will continue to help us grow our audience. And please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to be notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on both the Dial the Gate and gateworld.net YouTube channels. We've got a number of, a couple more episodes coming this extended weekend. Just after these guys, I have Jillian Barber coming on, Ambassador Draylock and a resident in Stargate SG-1, and Shane Meyer tomorrow as well. He played a character in SG-1 and Atlantis. My tremendous thanks to my moderators. Love you all. Anthony, Jeremy, Kevin, Lockwatcher, Marcia, Raj. You guys are the best. Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web keeps dialthegate.com up and running. And my producers, Anthony, Kevin, and Linda. Couldn't do the show without you. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and I will see you on the other side.